Oh, sorry. I'm too busy looking for something to know what I'm supposed to say. Sorry. Welcome to the November 18th meeting of the North Brookfield School Committee. This meeting is being recorded by North Brookfield LPAC. If there's anyone present who is also recording this meeting, please raise your hand so others are aware. Thanks everybody for coming tonight. So we are excited to have some recognitions. We'll do that first off. We have, first of all, the students that qualified for the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. Those students include, and I'm going to do my very best to pronounce your names right, Jagger Bulger, Gabrielle Cornier, Cameron Lariah, Alec Norrie, Nathan Norrie, Brianna, and I even asked her how to pronounce it, Kulich, Lindsay Schimmelpenny, Jessica Tower, and Maxwell Valancourt. And then also we have the Project 351, yeah, I'm not from Massachusetts originally, so. Project 351 ambassador, thank you, for this year is Jacob Standrovich. Thank you all very much. And then there was one other, right?
There was. So each year the Superintendent's Association sponsors a scholar from each district. And this year in our district, the superintendent's scholar is Nathan Norrie. So Nathan will travel with Mr. Heineck and I to the College of the Holy Cross on January 7th for a wonderful luncheon where Nathan will be recognized with the other superintendent scholars from Worcester County, from across Worcester County. It's a great event. I've been several times, and they always ask us from the association to apologize to parents because we don't have parents attend, just they don't have space. So they have the principal, the superintendent, and the scholar. So apologies, Mr. and Mrs. Norrie. I wish you could attend. But we'll take lots of pictures. And congratulations to Nathan for that. It's a great honor. There was a lot of competition for the scholar. It's always a tough call at the end, but Nathan was the selection. So, and to our John and Abigail Adams Scholar winners, some money there for mom and dad to save. So if you choose a state college or university, you get some money off. So choose wisely, but choose what's right for you first. Great job with the testing. Obviously, you had to score very high on MCAS to be qualified for that, so great job. And Jake, excellent job. I was a middle school principal and have done this for years, since Governor Patrick started it in 2011. You're going to be able to participate in some neat stuff, some really cool community service projects with 8th graders from across the state. So pretty neat opportunity. Take advantage of it. Come back and tell us about it.
So before everybody leaves, you all have to have your picture taken with Mr. Lind, so.
And I also wanted to say too that not only are these guys excellent scholars, but they are also wonderful representatives of the Brookfield public school system and excellent people. And so that just goes for all the scholars here and for Jake and Brianna, you down there as well. And so I just want to say thank you to all the parents for really, raising some wonderful children.
Great.
Sure. So how about we do the, Brianna, you mind? You don't mind having your picture taken?
Come on, Brianna, get in there.
So why
Come on,
don't we
Jake.
do, well, we'll have Jake and his
Okay.
parents do separately. Mr. Lind is tall.
He's got some.
Yes, they're all
Probably
very
get as
tall,
tall
the
as
same
me.
height as you.
Feel little.
So- You mind just moving over? But you don't move the mic. The mic didn't win any scholarships. It doesn't need to be. All right, congratulations to you all. Well done. All right, baby Jake and his parents. His parents need to be in the picture while filming. All right. Have fun with it.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks Thanks so much. Great job, everyone.
What's that? Oh, it's, no, it is. It's in the front of the,
Congratulations, Kim.
so maybe that like it's that to me. So that was always great to have students here to be recognized, and congratulations to them all. Cameron is still with us to do his announcements. Let us know what's going on.
So since the last time I saw all of you guys, it was right before the breast cancer walk, and I saw some faces there. It went really well, in my opinion. A lot of people said that the way we decorated the interior of the school was really great, and we think we're gonna move forward with that in the future, keeping that, inside, because we were able to do a lot more with decorations, and it looked really well. Not a lot of people went on the walk itself, but a good amount of people did. But most people that came participated in the games and food inside. And we ended up raising a total of $617, which isn't the most we've raised, but it definitely isn't the least we've raised. So I was proud of that. And right now, we are working on figuring out which organization we're going to donate to. Obviously, breast cancer affiliated, but that's that for that. Right after we had the Halloween dance, which also went really well. I don't know a lot about the numbers about that dance, but I do know we were able to save a lot of money because we had leftover food from the breast cancer walk, and the Halloween dance was right after, so we were able to save. We had tons of water left over thanks to Mr. Minucci.
Actually, Rotary was a big donor.
But so thanks to them, but you carried it in your car, so that's a big part of it. What we have going on at this moment is the giving turkey, which is kept in the lobby of the high school, where you can take a feather and it'll give you something that you can donate to them, and I believe the person running that is Emily LeCare. So you give the whatever the object is to her. It could be anything, any type of toy, and it gets donated. We also have our gift card fundraiser going on, which is still in the works, where we assign letters to different student council members to bring them to different stores, grocery stores and all that type of stuff, and ask if they can donate a gift card to us. So we're still waiting for letters to get back for that. And what we're working on for the future is Christmas on the Common, which is probably bigger than our breast cancer walk, the biggest event that we put on. So,
And what's the date of that?
I believe the date of that was December 21st, but I'm not sure.
I can check.
Yeah, actually, I think I just saw something on Facebook about it today. It's definitely,
Yeah, it's the 21st.
December 21st, I'm not sure of the time off the top of my head, though.
I think I saw it was like 12 to 2.
12 to 2.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
December 21st, 12 to 2, we're really working on that right now. That was a big thing we were going over at the meeting tonight. And other than that, that's what we're working on right now.
The gift card fundraiser, what's the, you get gift cards from various organizations, what do you do with them?
So we get gift cards from various organizations, and we make up a calendar, and people buy the calendar, I think, for $10, and then we put specific gift cards on different days, and people win the gift cards based on whatever
So
day.
it's like a raffle,
Yeah.
buy a calendar raffle kind
So
of
like,
thing?
if you say win the December 17th or something like that, you
Yep.
could get a $20, $10 gift card to Price Chopper or like TJ Maxx or something like that.
Cool,
Yeah, that's what that is.
super.
Is there any more questions?
No?
Thank you.
Good job, Kim.
Thanks, Cam.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cam.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Cam. Hi, Jalen. You can have a
Hi.
seat right there.
We have,
Oh, awesome.
Thank you.
You will see.
I will see you.
Oh, Nature's Classroom. Oh, okay.
She's just gonna have a couple.
Yep, sure.
She was hoping for 2, but she's at 1 right now.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and start,
Yeah,
or
if
do you wanna
it's
wait?
okay,
Oh, yeah,
I'm gonna
absolutely.
get us set up
Yep.
for that.
You wanna
Oh, okay,
take
so
care of
while
the
you're
minutes?
setting up, we'll
Approval of
do the
minutes.
approval of the minutes.
Yeah, perfect.
So, we have 2 minutes to approve, regular meeting on October 21st, and then the special meeting on October 21st.
Sure, motion to approve the school committee regular meeting minutes of October 21st, 2019, and the special meeting of October 21st, 2019.
My second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we're just gonna take a couple minutes while Mrs. Priestley sets up, to have one of our Nature's Classrooms
You wanna
attendees do.
keep going, though? You want me to-
Sure, we'll keep going.
Correspondence, public participation.
All right,
school committee
Do we have
reports.
any correspondence? No, we don't have any public participation. Do you wanna do the financial
Sure.
report? All right, so,
So, again, as last month, we continue to be very much on track. I did freeze the budget a little bit earlier than usual this year. And it's mostly around some special education costs. We have some costs that have occurred that when we did the budget last, I don't know, January, February, March, even in through June, we weren't aware of, but we certainly are now. And we just don't want to be caught short at the end of the year with a tuition bill. So, you know, all purchases now, people are talking to me before we go forward with them. It's not like we're buying nothing, but we are moving forward. I'm just gonna hit one of my superintendent report things. Last month, question came about moving the adult education money. There's a revolving account. We cannot do that. It has to be spent, we can spend it, but it has to be spent on adult education of some type. It doesn't have to be the same program that existed before for adult education, but adult education, and the reason we could use the PTO, move the PTO money, the RUG account or the SHADE account, whoever we
Right.
moved, was the PTO, the organization that raised it and donated, approved that change.
Right.
So
so is there any sort of like adult education you can do for parents or something that you
we
can
can
use?
certainly look at,
Right.
you know, ways to provide training or support, education that would be beneficial for parents.
Yeah.
Cool.
Are you guys ready?
Alrighty,
And who is this young lady here?
this is Jalen Rodriguez, who was one of our sixth graders that attended the trip. We have another sixth grade student who is hopefully on her way. She has dance until 7. So
Okay,
she's
do we wanna wait then?
hopefully coming. We could give it some time if you wanted
Yeah,
to
we'll keep going.
keep going and
Yeah.
we'll wait like maybe
Yeah.
5 or 10 more minutes.
Sure.
Okay.
So keep going there, Mr. Lynch.
Right now, we've gone through the salary lines. We are slightly in the red for the salary lines. Again, as you know, as we have resignations and retirements and hiring, we hire people on a salary scale. And often, we don't know what we're gonna get when we go to hire, so we're making estimates. So we're about a little under $20,000 in the red now. $20,000, I always go, but in salary, that's not a lot. It's really very little, as a matter of fact. Between, you know, if someone goes out for any extended period, a maternity leave, for example, that'll be made up very quickly. So it's pretty, we're pretty much on track in that area as well. So, but overall, very much on track overall. Even the sub line is not nearly as bad as it was last year. Still not great, but it's not as bad as it was last year. So some really positives there as well. We will have more information about some of our special education out-of-district expenditures coming up in a future meeting, because we're really going to have to make some decisions on how to move forward with some of that. So, but otherwise, pretty status quo, I guess, would be the way I would put it.
Okay.
Questions?
Anybody have any questions about anything? Can I just ask a favor in the
Sure.
future, though? The financial report, it was in a PDF or something, so you couldn't really read it when you sent it to us. If you could just give us a link to the Google Doc or whatever it is.
Sheila doesn't work in Google Docs.
Oh, okay.
She refuses.
Okay.
Sheila doesn't work in Google.
All right.
Well, only because a lot of her
Well,
spreadsheets have
sure, sure.
pre-populated
Yeah,
yeah,
things
yeah,
and it
yeah.
doesn't
Google doesn't.
translate,
Okay.
so I often just ask her
Sure.
to make a PDF. If I twist it or turn, like.
Yes, if you
turn
do it,
rotate it,
yes, so that
I'll do
it's
that.
portrait, landscape and
gotcha.
portrait. Thank you. So I'm excited to hear this presentation. Yep. I think you can take it out of there.
Yeah.
Or move the whole thing.
I'm gonna have them
Yeah.
introduce themselves. Since this is on video, speak into the mic, okay? So tell them your name,
I am Lanaya Marhetka.
and you can tell them as well.
I'm Gavin Rodriguez.
I will run the pictures, so you guys can look at the pictures and just talk about the trip, okay? Oh, let me go back. Go ahead. You can tell them, where did we go, when did we go, where was it?
We went to Nature's Classroom and
Where was it?
it was at Lakefield, Rhode Island.
Okay. That's a map of where it is.
How long of a ride was that? In a bus?
I'm pretty sure it was a 2-hour and 30-minute drive.
That's about right. What's going on in this picture?
That was the girls and the boys' cabins. So this is the girls' cabins, and then this is where the boys went, and that's where we went, and then that's where all of the people went to meet up. And when we first wake up, that's where we just sit and wait for the teachers.
I think this is just the interior.
Oh yeah.
That's the cabin you're talking about.
That was inside the boys'
Going the wrong
cabin.
way, sorry. What's this?
This is
You can face them.
this is Gaga Pit,
Gaga.
where every time we would have transition time, or when we would wake up, and we would try to get ready really fast, so we could at least have an hour or at least 30 minutes to play in the Gaga Pit, which there was a lot of people who were really good at it. Can I mention names?
No, that's okay, we'll go ahead and move on, because we got a lot of slides we gotta get through, so let's go past, this is just where you guys met up. All right. Okay, talk about this one.
So we had field group leaders, and so sometimes there was like, you just go around and they'd have these stations set up for all the children. And so one of the field group leaders would bring us to the water, and you'd have to bring like boots, and that was Deej, and we'd go to the sand and find shells and find things that we thought were cool. And then we had another one where we'd go to, that was lunch.
Sorry, I'm gonna try to stop it, it's kind of on an automatic loop.
We would go to the forest, right? Like, yeah, and then we'd go and we'd explore and we'd look at the salamanders and we'd try to find them. And then, yeah.
Do you wanna talk about lunch, Jalen?
Most important thing.
Or the food, I should say, the dining, and Ort, tell them about Ort.
For, a lot of us, lunch was our favorite part because we had a really good cook. And, well, anytime that we would go like to dinner, anytime that we would go to dinner or for breakfast, that would be like some of our favorite parts because we had a really good cook and we got to talk, and then we had liquid Ort and Ort. And
What is
that-
Ort? Tell them what that is.
Ort is Ort is when you it was like all like liquid and food all together
That you didn't eat.
that we didn't eat.
Yeah.
And they would weigh it, and then we would sing a song at the end about it.
And the idea was to have the least amount of Ort each day.
Yeah.
So you're not wasting.
So it's about food waste,
Yeah,
right?
food waste.
Not wasting food.
Oops, I'm skipping around here. Let's keep going.
Kids still can sing. Oh my gosh, I can too, and I went like 20 years.
All you guys get to build a fire?
Oh yeah, that was a dry fire that we made. A dry fire is, you probably already know, but
No, I
dry
don't know.
fire is when it's a fire over water.
Cool.
And we made one. It walking,
This
like
one?
that one.
Yeah.
That one, we were walking through this area in the woods, and it was like you could sink in it.
Like
So-
this monkey?
Yeah, and so he would ask two of us to walk a little bit, like say 15 steps forward, and if you would sink too deep, then we were able to go straight. And then he asked two of us to go that way, and
Oh, scouting out the trail.
and once we found a right way to go, we would keep on walking and walking and walking, and we would explore and try to find things that would help light a fire. And we went really far, and yeah, it was really nice.
What's going on in this picture?
Oh, so in that picture, we had another captain, and so we were trying to make at least smoke, because we didn't want to make a fire because of the fire detector things. And so we had stick, a rope, and I don't know what that is specifically, but it's when you get the stick and then you have to have 3 people, and so you get the stick and then you put it on that square thing, and then you get someone to get the rope and start moving it so it goes really fast, and then it causes smoke and heat.
Cool.
These were activities that we did, and and that thing that was that little fort,
This, right here?
we didn't make that. That was made from a while back. Like Sea Cucumber had told us that
So the sea cucumber was one of your leaders, right?
yeah.
No.
Remember that?
Yeah, they all have neat names, yeah.
And he had told us that was probably 2 years ago or 1 year ago. That someone may have actually stayed in there. And some of the people went inside of it, and it was actually dry and warm in there.
Like
Cool.
a shelter.
So it was nice to know that it was warm in there. Oh, so when we were on the docks, it was fun. I loved it because my group leader, we'd go out at night, and then we went out, and then we tried to catch jellyfish, and they lit up, and you were allowed to touch them, but they were like 90% water, she said. So if you touch them and you keep them out of the water for too long, they may pass away. So we didn't, and we just kept them in this clear cup so we could see them. But the reason we went out for at night time we did it because of the lights. They would turn colors, and it was pretty.
So the jellyfish, at night, they glowed at night, is that
Yeah.
what,
I think that's the last slide.
But
Yep.
in that photo, like we would be able to climb trees
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, and it was really nice to climb trees. Yeah, we didn't get to do that, but some other groups got to do that. Mostly other went in the water and found like sea animals.
Why don't you tell them each your favorite part of the trip?
My favorite part of the trip was getting to spend time with my friends and getting to do like the water activities, because I really liked finding crabs and that and those things, and picking up trash in the water I like to do. And the food was really nice. My favorite part was to make new friends. I know we're like in the same class, but I guess the teachers or our field group leaders, they would make up groups that like we didn't really talk to, we didn't interact with people, so that was my favorite part, because then I have many more friends.
How was it with no power?
Oh, it was so hard.
That was easy for you guys, I think. I don't know if we had that before.
I was awake when the power went out, and it was really scary. The food, and we had to use our flashlights.
So true survival skills.
How long were you there total?
Well, we were supposed to be, I think, for 4 days.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, 4 days.
yeah, 4 days.
So what would you tell like a 5th grader who's gonna go next year about the trip? Because my guess is there'll be some 5th graders who are a little bit nervous about leaving and going for 4 full days.
I would tell them that it's going teachers and leaders are really nice over there, and that you get to learn new things and go by the water, and that everything you find is like really cool, and some things you get to keep, so not to be worried because you will be with friends and you'll get to meet new people.
Cool.
I would tell them it's not just like math, they're just on boards and they teach, it's fun math. So not like math isn't fun.
Don't worry, I don't think Mr. O'Neill's watching.
I think Mr. O'Neill would agree, right? It's a different way to learn, being outside.
Yeah.
It's real world.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming.
Thanks, guys.
If I can add to that too, seventh graders make timelines in their history class at the beginning of the year. Every single one, you're making a timeline from birth till now, every single one just about put Nature's Classroom on it as a major event in their life, so.
Gosh, connecting with nature is good for kids. Who thought it? So next up, we have our
Hard act to follow.
yeah. Monthly question. My monthly question.
Okay, this is not about fun nature things, but trying to make it engaging. So, if you were on the school committee last year, this is a very similar format to the presentation about accountability, as last year was the first year. Last year was the first year where Next Generation MCAS was brought into the accountability ratings for schools. So I'm going to go through a couple different things. Mr. Lynn put the PowerPoint in your packet, but some of the slides are pretty small, so I printed out some more things that kind of go along with this that I just handed out to you. So the first, this is a resource. This is the first page of that handout that I just had Maria pass along. It's just a resource from DESE about what is accountability. It's just an overview of talking about kind of the key important components of accountability, which really is trying to answer two questions. How is a school or a district doing, and what kind of supports are needed? So we're going to go through kind of how to understand the accountability system, and then I'll talk individually about where we land and our ratings, as well as some highlights and some places to focus in on, and then I'll also let the principals speak a little bit to this as well. But this is just a really good resource, a good cheat sheet for you to think about accountability. There's different indicators. So the MCAS test itself is a part of accountability. The state has really kind of pushed to pull in other things to measure schools by, so it doesn't just fall straight on the test. And then at the bottom here, you can see that there's a scale of measuring how much need is needed per school or district. So again, just a really good cheat sheet that the state put out this year for understanding accountability. So to get into a little bit about terminology, some of this is probably familiar to you, but just make sure we're all on the same page. There's two ways that MCAS is really focused and measured. One is an achievement, so how well students score on a specific subject area assessment, and then the other is growth. So you might have a place where achievement's really high and growth is low, or vice versa, or they might both be high or both be low. Ideally in growth, they're looking for SGP, student growth percentile, between 40 and 60, and that represents a student making a year's worth of growth in that subject area. Indicators, so each accountability rating is based on a different number of indicators, which we'll talk about. and a target. So each school and each district have a set of targets based on these indicators that are set by the state the year before. So last year, our data was set by the 2017 test, where not everyone was necessarily on the next gen assessment yet. And this year's targets for the 2019 test was set by 2 years of data. Okay, so again, the state says, here's where we want you to be based on what you did previously, and then they measure you, how close did you get to those targets. Every school and district gets a percentage point, so based on the percentage point is how much, or how well you're doing compared to the state. And same for a percentile, but those are only for schools. The district doesn't get a percentile. And then new, as of last 2 years now, is the lowest performing students. So the lowest performing 20 students or 25% of students is a second factor into accountability. So you've got the all students score, and then this second group, which is measuring, taking into account the lowest performing subgroup. This only affects us at the elementary school for this year because we don't have a low group of 20 students that fell into this category for our 10th grade class last year. So we'll go through, but you'll only see a lowest performing students rating for the elementary school. Okay, so the indicators, this is going to tell us what percentage each is. And this is looking to change a little bit coming up in the next year or so. But so for the elementary school, we our weighting is at achievement is 67.5%, so it is the highest weighted percentage. Student growth is 22.5, and then additional indicators like chronic absenteeism is at 10%. So again, they're adding a little bit more of other indicators into the accountability, and it's not just about the assessment. For the high school, junior, senior high school, achievement and student growth, you see achievement is a little bit lower. That's because they're looking at high school completion. So whereas at the elementary school there is no high school completion, they took that amount and broke it into that area for the junior, senior high school. Looking at 4 years, that cohort starts in 9th grade, how many of them graduate. Extended engagement rate, so if a student doesn't graduate, they come back and finish in their 5th year, and then it takes into account the annual dropout rate. And then the only additional indicator besides chronic absenteeism is percentage of 11th and 12th graders completing advanced coursework. So those are all the factors that are going to come into play when we look at the scores.
So I'm sorry, when it says student growth and it's 22.5%, what exactly is that?
So the overall score, that the accountability that you get for the percentage or your percentile, which are two different scores that a school will get, that is figured out by these percentages. So that's like a weighting system. So they take all the scores of achievement and they give it a weight of 47.5.
So that totals 100%.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Okay.
So it's like if you took, if you were in a class and you got 10%
Okay.
of your grade was for homework,
All right,
et cetera.
I got you. All right, now I got it.
And as Mr. Lynn and I like to say, it's statistical acrobatics that they do to figure all this stuff out. So every district and school gets a percentage. I edited this because I made a mistake on your printout, but because I had it from last year, we now have 2 years of this data that is being built upon. And I'll talk about what this looks like in a second. Last little bit is you earn points. Again, the state had set targets for us. You earn points on those indicators. So we earn points for achievement, we'll earn points for student growth percentile, we'll earn points for chronic absenteeism, etc. Did we exceed the target they set for us? Did we meet it? Did we improve a little bit? Did we not change at all? Did we go backwards? Okay, and you'll see this on the next slide. So the goal for the percentage score is 75%. They want people to get 75%.
They want you to earn 3 out of every 4 points.
Right. So this is enlarged on the handout you just got. So if you want to enter the colors, that's easy. So this is district-wide. So district-wide, and we'll go and break this into each school in a second. But we've got both the MBES and 7-8 here. and then 912 is falling under over here. So our district percentage is 39%, and that means that we did better in the accountability system than 39% of schools in the state, districts in the state, okay? So those points, and again, this is bigger on the sheet that I just gave you, but for ELA, math, and science, you have a possibility of getting 4 points, and this is for NBES and 7-8 combined. And it shows how many points we got in that system. So for ELA, for these grades, we earned 2 of the 4 points. Math, we earned 0 of the 4 points. Science, we earned 1 of the 4 points. And then you continue down. So all of these get added and factored in, and they're weighted and all that fun math stuff. And it comes down and it's weighted for the whole district, and that's where we get the 39%. So we're gonna talk about some of the areas that we see of concern, some areas that we want to celebrate. But you can see across, if you're looking at 4 is the points you want to get 3 or 4. That's our goal, is to get as close to 4 as possible. It gives your average, and it can bring down the average for the percentage if you obviously get 1s, 0s, or 2s. So that's for the district. For the elementary school, same process. Notice how we have a section of lowest performing subgroups filled in for these areas. That's because we had a group of 20 that fell into the category. So those students are counted twice. They're counted within the all students, and then they're counted within the lowest performing subgroup. So again, achievement for the elementary school, we see ELA 0.4 for all students, 0.4 for low achieving students. Math, 1 of 4 for all students, 4 of 4 for low performing, and you work your way down. Chronic absenteeism for our all students, we have 2 of 4, and lowest performing 1 of 4. And then 46 is our percentage. So there are we're doing better than 46% of elementary schools in the state. Again, 75 is what they want you to shoot for. When we get to it, you'll see that the elementary school was classified as substantially making progress, which is kind of a notch above where we were last year. So we actually made significant progress towards the targets that the state set for us and actually both schools. But elementary school needs what they call substantial.
So when they give you the points there, do they tell you which points you've done well in and why? Do they tell you?
You can kind of go back to the data and see, like so for achievement, you can kind of, again, this is now 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. You can look overall and determine kind of how we did and why maybe we would have got 0 points there. But again, it's the target that they set for us, and did we make progress towards that target? It's all based on the year before's data. So it's a little.
Okay, so the school is left to figure out then, looking at the data, where they need to focus.
Yes. Yeah, so what we do
And that is clear to you guys.
So what we do is, whether it's principals or myself, we dig into the more specific data. So we might look at ELA across the board, 3rd through 6th. What are the standards that we didn't do so well on? Maybe we didn't do so well on vocabulary. So maybe that's the area we want to make sure that we're discussing with teachers. Maybe it's another area. So we're able to dig a little bit deeper and find the areas where maybe we need to focus on or create more of a curricular base for. But you can't really tell in this.
Right.
Because it's,
But you all know.
Yeah, we can
This
dig
is
into
all
it.
free to use on DESI's website under school profile. It has all the detailed data minus names, so you can see the questions students did well on. All of us can see that. It's really powerful to go there to break up that data and see it all on DESI's website. Just Google DESI school profiles North Brookfield and it'll pop right up.
All right, I'll be doing it.
I'll answer questions.
So this is for the junior, senior high school. Again, we didn't have a high enough group, so the low performing subgroup doesn't exist, because we needed 20 students in those subgroups, and that didn't happen. But so what they do is they figure out what 7, 8, what the score was, and then 9 through 12, this is really 10th grade ELA math and 9th grade science. So it's not really 11th and 12th graders unless they are taking MCAS as a retake. So again, same thing, you're looking at number of points earned out of the total possible points. The areas that are different are the high school completion. So there's nothing in these boxes because the 7th and 8th graders aren't completing high school yet. But then you move over to the high school area and you can see 4-year cohort graduation rate, we got 0 to 4 points, extended engagement rate, 0 to 4 points, and annual dropout rate, 3 out of 4 points. So we had a lower dropout rate than the year before.
So extended engagement rate, that's when they come back, is that right?
Yes, so, and I know that the principals are gonna talk a little bit about what they're working on, but for example, we had a number of students who didn't graduate last year who we've re-engaged specifically through Edgenuity to finish their coursework. So, we're looking at this data to make changes so that we can continue to earn these points and support our accountability.
And this is gonna be a dumb question, but I
There are
just
no
feel
dumb
the need. Yeah, there are. The graduation rate dropouts, this is kids they know haven't gone to school anywhere else. They know they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
That's right.
So we've had that big of a dropout rate?
So this is saying that
I
our
mean,
dropout rate
not a
is
dropout
low.
rate, but a non-graduation rate?
So this would be 9th graders who started with us, so 9th graders that then would be 12th graders last year, and then how many of them actually graduated versus going to, I believe they go to a GED or a high-tech program, it doesn't count towards our points.
So that's 20%, so that's good actually, so, right? 20,
What? So we got 0 out of 4 points.
So 20% is the weighting, remember back to that idea?
Yeah.
Your homework counts for 10%, so those 3 points counts for 20%, so that's actually, it's not a great, rate because we wanted to get 12, there's a lot of points that are missing.
okay,
20%.
all right, okay.
So then the only other thing that's here is the chronic absenteeism and the advanced coursework, which, again, we got 0 out of 4 points, which we definitely had a number of advanced coursework classes happening last year, and Mr. Heineck has been working also this year to get, specifically with Edgenuity as well, students engaged in more. So we are addressing these issues. But you can see the overall percentage is 52. So any other 7th through 12th grade school, we are scoring 52% better in the accountability rating than they are. I think it's pretty good. Moving in the right direction. So the last little piece here is percentile. This is only given to schools, not districts. To measure the performance of all students in a school compared to other schools in the state. And schools are grouped together based on the tests that they're administrating and how they did prior in years past. So our MBS percentile is 22%. So it's very similar to the percentage. So against other schools, there's 22% of schools that are we're doing better than. I think last year we were about 24, so we're around the same range as we were for the elementary schools. Again, our overall classification is not requiring assistance or intervention, and the reason for that is because we made substantial progress towards the targets. So if you think back to that first page where they gave you the chart on the bottom of the handout that I gave you, it shows you the different measurements that they give for your classification. NBHS, not requiring assistance. This is big because last year we were requiring some assistance. We made moderate progress towards goal. We are at 14th percentile, which is a positive move, and we were at 11, which was pulling us into needing and requiring assistance. Still not where we want to be, but again, trending upwards. So this is just a snapshot of the schools, the district, elementary, junior, senior high school. Nobody is requiring assistance. This is highlighted because we were requiring assistance here last year. Moderate progress elementary school made substantial progress. Here's where we fall in our percentage, so the actual progress towards those targets that they set for us. So we got 43% of the, towards those targets as a district, 57 elementary, 45 junior, senior. And then this is measuring us against other schools. District does not have one, 22 to 14. So just to highlight some places, again, I said a couple of these things. We've moved out of requiring assistance or intervention at MBHS. Doesn't mean it's where we want to be, but again, trending up. We at MBS made substantial progress towards targets, which is kind of a step above that meeting or making progress. We earned 4 out of 4 accountability points for our 5th grade science test. So our 5th grade science did very well. The mathematics achievement at MBES for the lowest 25% of students. So our lowest percentage of students actually made earned a number of points, so they did very well. And then that's for achievement and then for growth. So those are some things to celebrate, that our lowest level students in those 2 categories for math, they're actually making a lot of progress, which is very positive. We earned at the high school, junior senior high school, 4 to 4 in ELA achievement for grades 7 and 8. So that group scored very high on the ELA assessment. And 10th also did very well in ELA for achievement. And then grade 10 math achievement is very high. The growth for ELA for MBES was 47.7, and for math was 47.8. So our achievement was a little bit low in those areas, but our growth hit, right, what would be the bottom range of a year's worth of progress. So there's the achievement, how well you do on the test, but then there's the growth. You might have not scored super well, but you grew almost a year's worth or a year's worth compared to what you did or knew the year before. Very similar for MBHS, students making year growth in ELA and math. We earned 2 points more this year than from last year in chronic absenteeism at MBES. And our lowest 25% of students at MBHS, we earned 2 more points this year for the annual dropout rate. So our annual dropout rate last year was 1 out of 4. So we made progress. Again, remember, 1 student, 2 students makes a big difference in our percentage, because 1 student is like 3 percentage points because of our population. And then lastly, areas to investigate. 7th and 8th grade achievement in math and science were very low, earning 1 out of 4 for math and 0 out of 4 points respectively for science. Our 9 through 12 grouping, 0 for 4, as you saw, for the 4-year graduation cohort rate and extended engagement rate, advanced coursework. So these are obviously areas that we're discussing and talking about. 0 out of 4 points for ELA achievement at the elementary school, and the lowest 25 percentile, that 25% group, and then 1 out of 4 points in math achievement for all students at the elementary school. And we're still in that lowest 15 percentile at the high school, again, making progress, but something we want to make sure that we don't trend backwards. That was a lot, that was a mouthful. So questions from me about the data and or questions for the principals about accountability or the assessment in general.
I guess I just, what do you do with the data? How do you respond? I mean, I know that's like a huge question. It's probably exceedingly complex, but just, when you see that you have a 0 out of 4 on an indicator, what is your response to that look like over the course of the year and next year?
Well, it's kind of everything and not everything, right? So it's a weird way to say it. So the data-driven instruction is the most important thing we can do, is find out what our students need and what we as teachers are going to actually deliver to them to make sure that they are growing in the right direction and growing at a rate similar to or exceeding their peers. So when we see things like, for example, what was the one I was thinking about? The advanced coursework completion. We got 0 points in that category. So what we really tried to do this year was to make sure our juniors and seniors were all enrolled in an advanced placement course or a dual enrollment course through Edgenuity. So bringing Edgenuity on board really helped us increase that dual enrollment offering that we have. So now we know we'll get 4 out of 4 points on the completion of this, because we've already outpaced significantly where we were with enrollments last year. So it gives us kind of targets to say, all right, are we making progress in these kind of categories? Is our professional development aligning to these deficiencies that we see in science achievement or math achievement, and making sure that as we go through each, professional development opportunity that we have, are we looking at that data? Are we kind of reflecting on where we are and how we're actually moving the students? And then we can use interim benchmarks. We used the NWEA MAP assessment this year for grades 7 through 10, which is a very good predictor on MCAS achievement. And so we're using kind of data every day at our disposal to say, I'm seeing these trends in the student performance in my classroom. I may need to adjust this based upon the standard performance. So if everyone's doing really bad on solving multi-step equations, and I know that's going to be a heavy thing that MCAS is looking at this year, then I know I can refine my lessons based upon where my students are scoring.
And do individual teachers do that, or like where's the, where's the opportunity? I just know how much
So-
they have on their plate.
So at our last curriculum hour, for example, I subbed in for Jean, and I worked with the grade 3 through 6 math teachers. And each teacher, all the teachers had their data, and we went through a protocol for looking at data. And I've done this a lot of times since 2002, I think, when the data really sort of hit the fan. And the protocols go out the window, as you know, as a teacher. You start looking, teachers go down the list and they start looking at an item analysis sheet saying, oh my God, look at number 3. Everybody, or a big chunk of kids got that one right or wrong. What was the question? They go back and look at the question. And they kind of action plan. How did I teach that? What did I use to teach that? When did I teach that? What did they answer that was incorrect? Like maybe everybody put B and that was a mistake. So there's a real data analysis like down to the question level. And then, as they go through, they're really making sort of lists of groupings. So, this is a standard that is standing out, that is really, I'm seeing that in multiple locations where kids struggled or did well, and they're trying to figure out, I wonder why, and then come up with an action plan. If it's a good result, how can we replicate that in other areas? And if it's not the result they wanted, why did that happen? Why didn't kids get it? Sometimes it is simply vocabulary. For example, one of the questions they were looking at, I think in 6th grade, was something related to a question about averages. And the language that you use in class might be different from the language that they use on a formal assessment like an MCAS, if the kids aren't exposed to the more formal language. So now the teacher is saying, okay, I have to change the way I teach in terms of what I say. Sometimes it's the materials they use. Sometimes it's the formatting of questions. Sometimes as a teacher, you look and you say, oh, I taught them how to add fractions, but the MCAS test generally doesn't give you 1/3 plus 1/2 with an empty box. It's a reading problem, right? You have to dig into the question. So part of it is that. So, as Mr. Hynek said, it can be a multitude of answers as to what the solution is for any one thing, but the teachers are really doing the work on the sort of the meat and potatoes. I taught it, so I need to see the data. I need to see, what they did well and what they did well with and what they struggled with. So that's one of the ways we use curriculum time and some of our professional learning time. It's for really that dig into the data and have teachers try to figure out by looking at patterns, by looking at previous year's data, by looking at their own planning and instruction and curriculum resources, what's working and what isn't.
I'd also like to add that some of the areas that at the elementary level that we address this work, we have our professional development pods, which are groups of teachers working on professional learning in a particular topic. A number of our teachers are involved in the reading units that we're implementing, and another group is working on math instruction. And so there's a lot of work being done at that level to increase, best instructional practices with those two curricula. And then also we have 2 leadership committees, one for literacy and one for math. That's looking at instruction, it's looking at progress monitoring, data analysis, so we're tracking students' progress as they build on their skills, which is something that, we've been collecting performance data on our literacy, but then what are we doing with that data? Looking at, intervention blocks and addressing those areas of need. Progress monitoring at the math level, what would be the best tool to track that? So it's a lot of really exciting work happening, which will, once we have all of those pieces in place and we're able to target those areas of need, that we'll see those points go up.
So
MCAS
at
has changed so
at the
much.
high school level, they do the same thing?
Yeah.
Looking at the data and,
Absolutely. I mean, it's really one of the most important things that we can do is really, if the MCAS has changed so much over even the past 2 years, moving to more of a knowledge-based test where writing now is probably the most important thing we can do. How am I making sure that my history teachers, my science teachers, are making sure that their writing is matching the level of writing rigor that the MCAS is asking them to do? So that's really one of the shifts that we're really trying to focus on is what is a good quality assessment look like? Is it matching the language? Because like Mr. Lynn said, if you know how to add fractions and you're not used to like 1 plus a third, what does that equal? And now you have to read a problem and the language doesn't say add, it says find the additive. You're like, what? So I'm making sure that all the teachers are using that language as well.
any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The only other thing that I would add is, and Mr. Hynek said it, you know my opinion on MCAS. There's a value to it, but the value is really in when you can triangulate the data. And MCAS alone doesn't do it. So the teachers have their assessments, and we are looking to implement more district-wide common assessments. So as Mr. Hynek said, this year we invested in the MAP testing, which provides a third piece. So you have MCAS, you have MAP testing, and now you have the teacher data. And when you ever watch the movies and they say we got to triangulate in, that's how you truly find where something is down to the finer level by being able to triangulate in. And as Mrs. Priestley said, trying to triangulate in on math now is the next big thing at the elementary school for us, because we have the BAS testing. I know you've heard that in the past for reading with MCAS, and then the teacher's ongoing assessment, so we can triangulate that. In math, we need another assessment, a more common assessment for our elementary math students. And it just, I guess I will say it again, and maybe I shouldn't, but I will. And the commissioner actually said it, and we'll go over it. It's not about fixing MCAS. It's about building our program. If we do that, then MCAS will take care of itself. So I know we all look at the data and go, how do we get better? I do it myself. But to me, it's not, I remind myself, it's not about fixing MCAS data. We can't do that. We have to build our program, fix what isn't working, and MCAS data will follow. That's the way at becoming a great program, and was why it was so great to hear when the commissioner came and actually used those words. It's really important that we remember that. I know we get into this and say, well, we can't get 0 points. Well, sometimes 0 points is because you went down a little bit. Maybe you had a really good year the year before, and you have less kids in advanced coursework for a singular year. Or you have, for us, 1 kid dropping out means we've exceeded the state expectations in dropout rate. They expect us to have less than a 3% dropout rate. Well, 1 student is 3% for us. And we do everything we can to not have students drop out, but it does happen. I mean, I wish it didn't. We encourage kids not to. We try to work with families, but in the end, that does happen. So, the data can be used for a lot of different reasons. I want to use the data to be able to triangulate in, not to say we're a good school or a district or a good teacher or a good kid.
No.
Yeah, no, and I know that, but I want to remind people that that's not what MCAS is to me. I know people outside do that.
No,
but,
but it
for
can be
me-
useful data to figure out how to align.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's what we're doing.
articulate skills across, yeah.
So we've been jumping around a little bit, but we did have one school committee report, which is that Mr. Lind, on behalf of the school committee, did apply for the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education grant for a study on regionalization. So that was filed November 4th, right?
Yes, they are
And-
expecting early December, I believe,
Oh.
for
Early December, they will be deciding on awarding the grant, so. All right, so,
pick
Mr.
up with
Lind,
my school
Continue.
superintendent's report.
Yep.
So just a quick update. So last year, we really hit school safety hard, as you remember. We did a number of really positive things to move our district forward and I think create a safer environment. And I don't want that to sound wrong, because I don't, it wasn't an unsafe environment, but we wanted to make sure things were in
we mean
place
put
in the
systems in
event.
place?
In the event that anything should ever happen, that we were more prepared than we already were. This year, we are moving forward. We're waiting for that school safety grant to come out. And the next area that I'm looking to get into is like a card system or a fob system for both schools. One of the challenges that we have is keys, like key access. You start making master keys so that people can get in, and over the years, they can disappear, people can lose them. It gets very challenging to make sure master keys don't,
Oh, you mean to like the main entrance of the building?
yeah, the keys to the
Yeah.
building,
Yeah.
to both buildings. So we're looking to get a fob system or a key card system that you can, program, and whether it's on your ID and you swipe in and it's programmed, and if you lose your ID, we can take that, take it out of the computer system and redo it so people can still get in, but, and then also it allows staff when they're outside with kids at recess or wherever, not to have to buzz in, not to leave a door propped open, which sends me over the edge when I see, doors propped open. I just run out to my car. Well, we're a locked facility. The reason we lock doors is we don't want people to enter who shouldn't be here. But again, we're in a safe, our hometown, and nothing ever happens here, unfortunately, until it does. And that's why I kind of lose my mind when I see things propped open. So that's going to be the approach this year for that safety grant. If you have other ideas, please feel free to forward to me, but I think it's a natural next step for us in terms of the school safety piece. Questions on that? No? Great. Commissioner's visit was wonderful. Just very enjoyable. He is a down-to-earth guy. He's very easy to talk to and be with. He hung out with our kids. He talked with our kids. He really, I think, got a sense of who we were, to the point where I actually spoke to his secretary today after Mrs. Priestley did. He got in the car and left here, called and said, I want to go back there. I need to go back there. I've never heard that from all my other colleagues. So he will be here, it looks like September 24th, 2020. From
At 11 a.m.
11 a.m.
Really?
And he would like
Okay.
he would like to teach a class.
As long as the governor doesn't call him to a meeting.
So, and he wants tacos, because when he talked to a group of
Love
sixth
tacos.
Did you
graders.
talk to Diana about that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
When I
All right.
talked, I
Tacos
haven't
is
given her the
good.
date yet, but
Okay.
when he talked to a group of sixth graders, or actually when he talked to any kids, he said, how's the food? What's your favorite meal? This group of sixth graders said tacos. And he said, oh, I'm late for lunch. I missed lunch. And they said, yeah. He said, I'll have to come back and have lunch here. So we'll have tacos that day. But he was very engaged with our kids and our staff.
Well, and actually, he said, we were ahead of the curve, did he say? When he was talking
Yeah.
about, I don't know if he was just talking about the math hallway or.
I think the math hallway, I think ingenuity, I think he uses the words deeper learning. And that, the days of MCAS were needed when they were, 1993, ed reform, we needed to do something, we needed to change in education. But those days are past. We need to get back to really helping kids learn in a way that speaks to them at a deeper level, rather than to some test off in nowhere land. He understands that compliance is necessary. These tests are federally and state required, but how we test, when we test, how we use the data, we really need to look at. So he was a breath of fresh air, and has been a breath of fresh air as our commissioner for the last 2 years. But it was really exciting to have him visit. He has visited a number of schools, many schools, but not a lot in Central Mass, and certainly North Brookfield sometimes gets lost among the larger districts, and he was able to come out and see some of the great work that's going on here, and it was a lot of fun and really exciting for me, and I think for the other administrators, and I hope for the teachers and the kids, and Senator Goby was able to join him, and so we had some news folks, some newspaper folks.
Yeah, this
so
week,
we should,
check your local papers.
we should see some articles, so it was really fun.
Well done, everyone. Well
Yeah,
done.
it was awesome.
Good job, everybody.
Yeah, I only invited him over a year ago.
Yep.
But I didn't even have to invite him for him to come a
There you
second
go.
time, so.
Well, he came.
Yes, he did. So in your packet, there's some pages from the Franklin Public Schools. It's a concussion protocol and procedures. Later tonight, you'll hopefully do a third and final reading of our new concussion policy. Well, as we know, some of our policies got a little outdated. As Maria says, yes, a lot outdated maybe. And our concussion policy was significantly outdated. There was legislation back in 2011 and then updated in 2014 to improve head injury, concussion reporting, pre-participation, any head injuries going into perhaps a sport or whatever. How do you return to play? And that policy had never really been updated, and we've never, although we have some procedures, they'd never really been articulated and written in sort of kind of a handbook form. So I was lucky enough to connect with Sarah Hearn, who's a former colleague. She's now the superintendent in the Franklin Public Schools. Franklin's a big district. They have about 6,000 kids, so they're, whatever, 10 times bigger than us. So they have a lot more sports and kids involved in sports who, may get involved and end up with some type of head injury or concussion. So they really put together a pretty comprehensive procedure and protocol packet for head injuries and concussions. And with her permission, I was able to start to adapt. And it's in the very front stages. In fact, today we had a wellness committee meeting. They're going to help me because our nurses and Mr. Minucci and Mr. Heineck are part of that group. Mrs. Outhuse, who's a school adjustment counselor, who certainly might have some, from an adjustment counsel standpoint for kids who are affected by head injuries. We're going to put some procedures and protocols into place over the next several months. It's a rather lengthy document, but our goal is to comply completely with the legislation, the regulations, and no matter who sits in what seat, principals, administrators, adjustment counselors, athletic director, coaches, there'll be policies and procedure and protocol to follow if there's any head injuries or possible concussions. In particular with athletics, but anything from recess to phys ed to student tripping and falling in the hallway and potentially having a concussion. So we know that all the news is out there about head injuries. We need to ensure that our kids are safe, both before a potential injury, when an injury happens, and then in the follow-up. So that'll be ongoing work. I'll be bringing it back to you, most likely ongoing, but definitely when all the procedures and protocols are completed.
Good.
In your packet, there is an outline of the NBHS principal search. It is very similar to the process we followed for the elementary search last year. Be posting and advertising the position on beginning on or about December 1st through about mid-January. At the same time, we'll begin to build a principal search committee made up of various stakeholder groups. January into February, the search committee will go through an application review process and select candidates for interview, conduct interviews over February, and then March hits, we'll get into the finalists, 2, 3, maybe 4 people, some site visits, interviews with the superintendent, various staff and parent forums, and then on or about April 1st, try to make a final decision as to the position for next year. Question?
So as I sit over here and hear this, I want you all to know that I'm fully committed to being here. I'm going to apply for this position, and my will to actually see these students succeed is second to none. I love being here. I love the relationships I've formed, and I actually wanted to say to Mr. Lind, thank you for honoring your commitment to go through search. You told the staff you were going to do it, and I think it's important to honor that commitment, even though it's difficult for me to go through this because I have a family to look out for myself, but I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to be here. I love this town. I love this school system, and that's just what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight to be here as long as I possibly can.
Thank you. 2 more things. One, just I mentioned last time the ASP contract is up. I did meet with the union folks, and they would like to schedule a meeting. They were looking at Wednesday, January 15th. I wanted to start maybe after the holiday. So we did 6:30. We did Wednesdays. They were thinking Wednesday, January 15th. I wanted to check with you guys, Elizabeth and Maria, and then I can connect with our attorney, and then I'll get back to them and try to coordinate. That would be a ground rules meeting and make a schedule for meetings, those kinds of housekeeping kinds of things first. And then the last thing on my report is I had a little additional packet. It's entitled Power Purchase Agreement Term Sheet. This is from that company Symbiont Energy. I mentioned this to you, I think, last time, and this is a non-binding agreement that if we sign off on this, they can use this to go to start to get real numbers. It is non-binding, so it doesn't hold us to anything forever. We're not buying anything from them. It just is kind of it shows a commitment on our end for them to be able to start to work with the power company and the state government on what will the real numbers be in terms of costs, in terms of how much, how much energy these would produce. I mean, they can use the numbers from our bill, but the power company can give them, like, every 10 minutes how many, I don't know, kilowatts or whatever the measurements are. I did speak with Dale Kiley briefly about this. He is advocating for us to work with this company. The selectmen have engaged with this company in a number of other projects.
Well, I think they have done something similar where they've signed a, whatever this term.
PPA is how they always kind of term it.
Right.
I have contacted a couple of other companies that other school districts have worked with. I have heard nothing back. I've contacted them several times. I would hate to not take advantage of this if it's positive for us, and since this is non-binding, my recommendation would be that we move forward with it, because if we don't like it, there's no commitment. But without it, they can't get that real in-the-dirt data about the power company won't work with them. The only thing they can do is look at our bill, which doesn't give them the kind of data they need.
Yeah, now this may be, I'm sorry if this is a stupid question, but would this be wholly within the school's budget?
So,
So like if we get SREC payments?
yeah, so
that go to the school?
the way this works is we can't get some of that. What they do is they sell us a certain amount of, power that we've produced for free
Right,
at lower cost. So, and I provided the estimates. They get all the incentives, but
Who's
they give
The
it to us
company
in a.
does,
Company
the
that's
company
sending
gets
out.
the incentives.
Right,
That's the way a lot of these companies operate.
because a municipality cannot receive those.
a municipality cannot receive those.
Right,
Okay.
so,
That's typical though of like a lot, like the solar panels I have in my house, they get the incentives. 'cause
Okay,
we
see, I
lease them.
get money from
Yeah.
them.
Right, because you probably purchased
Well, no, but.
them. All right, we got it too early, that's
Okay.
why.
so,
That's
so
why.
the idea is, with the current SMART program, they're estimating that we'll save about $50,000 in electricity the first year.
Okay,
Without the SMART program, which is the state sort of incentive program,
right,
it would be about 27,000. And based on my discussions with Mr. Kiley, that would be money that the school district would not have to spend and wouldn't affect our budget. So rather than, I don't know, I think it was about $160,000 in electricity last year that we
yeah,
spent. Say it's about $30,000 savings, we would only have to spend $130,000, but that $30,000 could be spent within the school district.
And we could
is what I was told.
Make sure that that is the
right, I mean,
case.
yeah,
Well, that would be a budget discussion that
Right,
happens
'cause
with the
this would
selectmen and
involve-
the FinCom.
Right.
His intention, and he was very clear with me, that the town isn't looking to take money back from us.
okay, because this would involve, I mean, there would be some costs associated with this.
No,
Not for the school?
Not at all?
none.
Well, I mean, honestly, this is merely, all this is like an exploratory agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at
Great
this
work.
point, the details will become clear to us, presumably.
Right.
After
I'm
this
just
company-
thinking
no, what I'm
something
saying is
initiated
that-
outside of our committee, so I'm just trying to figure out all the angles.
Right, what I'm saying is that I don't think we're gonna have the answers to a lot of these questions until they come back to us.
Yeah.
And then I think it would behoove us to make sure that we're asking all these kind of questions so that
Right.
we're not,
To make sure,
just
yeah.
losing
Once they
out.
come back, I would ask them to come here and present.
Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That would be good.
Okay, super.
thank you.
And that's it.
Mr. Heineck, and if you could briefly give us an
Our
update?
student council is awesome. They went to BVT High School for their fall conference. We had the largest number of students present out of all the schools in Central West.
Cool. And that's the highlight? All right, awesome.
Short and sweet.
All right. Well, actually, here's one highlight I like. National Honor Society raised
Oh, yeah.
and donated $750 to St. Jude's Children's Hospital and $250, Debbie, to Second Chance Shelter, Animal Shelter.
And they also-
And I think there's a correction here. There'll be a National Honor Society bottle and can drive. I think it's at the Brookfield transfer station, actually, not the North
I
Brookfield.
will double check that. I took that off of the newsletter that
Okay,
they sent out, so I will double check that for you.
okay, because I think I had that
You did. I remember
confusion
that.
because the
Yep.
Boy Scouts do one the same day. So I think there would be a conflict there.
I will double check that.
Fighting
for you.
over can. Okay. Mrs. Priestley.
So, of all the amazing things on my report that is just so cool going on at the school, I wanted to share more specifically the Math Leadership Committee, which is a new committee that we started this year. We met for the first time on October 25th, and we discussed the purpose of the MLC, which we had a lot of differing ideas about what this body of staff could do and what we could accomplish. We talked a lot about being a decision-making team regarding math instruction, helping to align the curriculum vertically, pre-K to 6, and even kind of transferring over into our middle school. So how would the MLC work with the math PD pod? So we talked a lot about that. We also started an action plan, which is in its nebulous stages of improving math performance is our big goal. We haven't really solidified all of the action steps yet. We do know that we are interested in tracking individual student progress, as I mentioned before. We want to help guide the professional learning of our staff in the future. So, we have the math pod this year, but what is it gonna look like next year and how are we gonna sustain it? So different things like that. We'll be looking at a common assessment that we'd like to use. So it's very exciting stuff. I'm thrilled. Our next meeting is this Friday, so.
Cool.
Yeah, good stuff.
So I just want to say that the not so spooky read aloud was awesome,
I know.
as always.
How do you choose between math leadership committee and not so spooky read aloud? I mean,
And
they're
then-
right up there together.
And then the Veterans Day breakfast, I think this is the
Oh,
fifth
amazing.
year.
It
Great
was
turnout.
amazing.
My father-in-law always comes and gets his.
Do you see the
pancakes.
picture, the panoramic? It was not, look amazing. Sorry, I get really excited about these things.
It was neat. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Minucci.
Yeah, I'll be real brief. SpedTech is up and running. They're having a meeting
Awesome.
this Thursday. And they could use some support because they're a little frustrated that the core group is in place. So we have every single one of the offices filled, but they're having some difficulty getting parents outside of their group to go. So they are doing a holiday ornament decorating at 6 o'clock here usually the meetings are at Kiva over at the high school, but it's gonna be here at the cafeteria at 6. And so if any support you guys could give to get some folks there, that would be greatly appreciated.
Sure. Unfortunately, I think that's an issue that both the PTO and the Sped Pack have always had, which is there's always a small group of volunteers, but we will work to help.
And I
get
know you
bigger.
will, thank you.
All right, so that was 6 o'clock here, ornament. It was buy one, would make one, take one, right?
Make one, take one.
And they're gonna sell them at the ornaments at the,
At the
At the craft fair?
holiday, yep, holiday
on-
craft fair,
on December 6th.
yes.
Mrs. Powers?
So I just wanted to go back to the NWA map testing that we mentioned during the presentation at Accountability and MCAS. So our 7th through 10th graders, just over 2 weeks ago, each took a math and a reading placement within the map growth system. And what that does is it allows us to go back to that word triangulate, look at the MCAS data, look at the map data, and then obviously look at what classroom teachers are seeing and be able to really pinpoint where students need support in their learning. Map testing happens 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring, and so it gives a good predictor of MCAS, but it also allows just growth over time. In that, on November 7th, we had a virtual training, so teachers were able to dig into the data of the students. What it's really neat, there's a couple different ways you can look at the data, but one way is to look at a topic. So, the topic that's coming up in their next unit, you could pull it up and then it tells you what kids are kind of ready for this instruction and what kids need a little bit more before they can get to this instruction. So our teachers are in the preliminary stage of kind of using this data to dig in a little bit more, and we're looking to support them in other ways to spend some time looking at how their students are doing and how that then informs their instruction. And then after our winter assessment, where we can actually look at a measurement of growth, parents and guardians will get a report from us showing what the growth has been from the fall to the winter. So again, we're looking for other ways to have a nationally normed assessment to measure how students are doing and what students need in the moment.
How do they
Cool.
do, is it like one class period, they're just spent?
So it's 2 class periods, we book off 2 class periods for a test. So math was one day and then the reading was the next day.
Okay. And the teachers aren't grumpy, because it gives them data, even though they're losing.
Did they do
their
it like
class
during
period.
pathways or something to?
Yeah, we just did it in different blocks of time throughout the day, and we kind of switched it up. So like one day, 7th grade went in the morning and then they went into so they didn't miss the same blocks 2 days in a row. But yeah, so then the teachers in English and math, and then obviously our science and our social studies teachers can dig into some of the reading information, can get a sense of where it's called the right now data, like what the student ready for right now. So.
I've used it in the past at previous schools. It's amazing. And the amount of resources it gives the teacher to help once they now know where the student is amazing.
Oh, that's cool, so
That's
it's
the
not just
best.
the assessment?
No. There's such a
Great.
huge suite of things. So when a student teachers see that they need to learn this, it'll say, try this, try this, try that.
Oh, that's good.
And it'll get that, so we're literally getting that triangulated data, like this student needs specifically this in order to move to the next level. And they're ready for this, but you need to work here a little bit more. So it's really good for predicting growth.
Can I say one thing or two? I want to give congratulations to the high school on the math testing because they really got very good participation from the students in the programs. And that will give us really good data. Thanks, so thank you,
Yeah,
Jason.
some non-MCAS data. which kids can't
Some really
access it yet.
good, I was very impressed with the participation rate of students that typically resist doing that type of assessment.
Are they allowed to say they don't want to? Is that,
Convincing. I tried to convince everybody to do it because it'll give you a good idea of
it's an
where you
opt-in,
stand.
opt-out?
And it's not like the MCAS, it's not
So
like right or wrong.
but some students can refuse if they don't want to, or?
So every student is taking the test. There was probably, I'd say, 3 students who didn't really take it seriously, and so that's
And
gonna
that's-
show us some
right.
data.
That's
that-
typical of, yeah,
So
okay.
like
But we
they cannot
did
refuse and then not do
So-
it.
Sure, you gotcha.
Yeah,
Yep.
they can just be doofuses.
This is like any typical classroom assignment.
Great.
I mean, anybody can say, no, I'm not doing it, but, you know,
So,
there's an
but I guess
expectation,
what-
and our kids
Right.
generally are compliant with simple requests like, hey, this is classwork we have you to do, and,
Right.
It sounds like
and why.
what Mr. Minucci was trying to say was that the students who sometimes prefer not to participate, this time, many of them did
And they were engaged.
engage.
It was
Well, so
And
that's a
we
good
got-
thing.
And we got real data, which was
That's
awesome.
good. So I just wanna say one thing that I thought was interesting on your highlights was the PBIS, team focused on self-evaluation. I think that's really cool,
Yeah,
to
so.
go back and look and figure out what's working, what's not working.
So when a group of us, Mr. Minucci and I went to the multi-tiered systems of support, leadership training, we started this self-assessment of really looking at supports and interventions and across the board. So the PBIS team, most of the members were there. We're setting aside a meeting this Wednesday to kind of continue that. So it's a tool that the state puts out for you to create a baseline and then develop, how do you create systems within schools and districts to support all students.
Great. So Mrs. O'Hara, the technology department, I'd say her highlight is that the access points have been ordered for 3 rooms. That's help me out here, what do you call those, hotspots, basically?
Is that for the?
Yep, hotspots, so have been ordered, this is for the high school, I think, right?
So we had the assessment done of our Wi-Fi, and it's gonna be quite expensive to sort of deal with all the problems. So we picked the 3, based on the available funds we had, what we could essentially afford were 3 hotspots or hives to address the areas most in need for Wi-Fi. And so that's gonna be done. And then the bigger work will be done through the federal E-rate program, which reimburses at a 70% clip. So if you spend $100,000, the federal government's gonna give you $70,000 to do that $100,000 worth of work. But we needed to address something now, because there were a couple of spots in the high school that were really dead spots for Wi-Fi.
Well, that's good then to do some improvements short term. And then Mr. Shaw, just talking about the painting the hallways, which if you haven't seen the hallways in the elementary school, just take a walk down because they look really awesome. And the Project Warriors, volunteers who came and did that, it was awesome. How many people did you have? You had like 5?
Yep.
One kid, one sixth
kid,
grader?
yeah.
Awesome kid.
It was great.
And the school speed limit sign went down in that
Ooh.
storm we had during Halloween, so the one on the north side of 148, and working on getting that replaced. So hopefully soon. Anybody have any questions or anything? All right. So, go ahead.
So a couple of quick things. First, the Teachers Association has signed off on the contract. So I would ask Maria, when she can, to put her signature on the 2 pages tab, and that would complete this contract. And from there, I will get it copied over at BayPath. We'll be responsible for 20 copies, and the union will be responsible for paying for 80 copies. And great job to Maria and to Elizabeth for being part of that team. To those of you who have been here, the previous contract signed back in 2016 was much more contentious, much more challenging. And this was a much more productive process. And Maria and Elizabeth, along with Attorney Bresnahan, did a great job along with Mr. Rigney and Mr. Surratt and their team. So it went great. And then the second thing was, there's a memo in your packet on the AM/PM coordinator. As you might recall, we raised the rate last year to $15 an hour, and then in the last meeting, you actually approved a second person. And I told you how successful this program has been. Well, we are having trouble finding a second person. I think we have someone on Monday and Wednesday. But we do not have someone the other days. And so what I'm asking is if the committee would be willing to raise the rate to $20 an hour for an individual who is working in the AM/PM program when they are alone and have 20 or more students. There's just so much more work involved as the number of kids go up, and when this person is alone, she is doing yeoman's work and staying and working a lot harder than ever. And I just think the success of the program is directly tied to, success of any program is directly tied to the people. She's doing a fantastic job.
And is
that's
there-
why it's
Is there a cap, though, that you'll set it at with if there's only gonna be one person? Are you
Yeah,
gonna-
we talked a little bit about that, and we really want to include Mrs. Priestley in that, so we were going to
Okay.
have a conversation with her, because at some point,
You
safety.
cap on the number of students?
Yeah.
Yeah, safety
right.
becomes a
Yes.
huge concern.
Yeah.
But we were thinking, if they have more than 20 students, that the additional pay is really earned. Less than 20, they would remain at 15 if they're alone, and if there are two people, that would be capped at 15. But I think a cap would be, I think anything more than a 25-to-1 ratio. I don't think you want to go more than that.
It's difficult at 20.
Yeah.
I've been in there.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything we can do to help find more?
You looking for
Potential-
extra
We
work?
have put out feelers
Good,
to
thanks.
hire a second person. It's just really difficult.
Just as an example, and the Greenfield superintendent, she actually did a radio interview to talk about hiring substitutes to try to increase the number of people applying for substitutes. So I don't know if that's something
I
if
just
you've
need to get the
considered.
word out.
Have
Right.
we offered it to
More.
like the substitutes or even
Well, I
like
think it's,
paras? Can they do that? Can paras like do it? Or-
Yes, I think what it is that, it's, from 3 to 5, and especially some of the parents
And
that
in
have
the morning.
kids.
It's really hard for people who are already here
Right.
all day to then stay another 3 hours. But I think we really need to reach out to families in North Brookfield and find people who, are home during the day, maybe because they work from home or something, and then they want these extra hours,
What about like a
But
high
it's-
school student? Would that be okay? Or no, we don't want that.
No.
I was just thinking
That's
like
kind of hard.
17, 18-year-old.
So, if someone came, like say there was someone who was at home and had kids and was willing to do this, could they come to the program, bring their kids and not
Yeah.
have to pay?
Well, I don't know.
Okay,
That's a good question.
because I mean,
I
that's,
didn't really think about that.
so that might be something,
Like an
that-
incentive.
right? Like if there's someone who has kids that wanted to, who's willing to do it, but don't have to pay to have their kids, I don't know. I mean,
I don't have a problem with that.
I'm happy to raise the pay to $20 an hour, because I know my own kids have done the after-school program, and the people who do it are very good. But I guess I would say I would rather have, because first of all, I wouldn't want to cap it, because personally, I need it, and I would hate to be told, sorry, because then what do I do? But, it's also, I think I would prefer personally, not to just have one person, especially if sometimes they take them outside, so.
Well, and having two people, even when it's 15 kids to have two people, it's,
Yeah,
if there's
right.
a group that needs to go to the bathroom,
Right,
on the
and there's a
playground and-
wide age range too, so.
very wide age,
Very
so, yes.
So anyway, so yeah, I mean, I guess I would say yes, let's, we can do this, raise the pay for when they're alone and have 20 or more students, but I also would like to see, to get the word out to try and find someone. I know that they've always had trouble keeping people, but there seem to be a lot of turnover.
Mr. Lynn, maybe we can talk about some ideas and how to get the word out.
Sure.
Sounds good.
So I think that this is one of the things we need to vote on.
Yep.
So I need a motion.
I make a motion to raise the pay rate for the after-school program to $20 an hour if there is more than 20 students and only one adult.
I second it.
Perfect.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. All
Who
right,
seconded that?
I did.
Elizabeth.
Thank you.
And then you have something about the
We got-
Southern Worcester County? Or is that
We
after?
got policy
All right,
first, and
policy.
then-
All right, you ready, Kristen? You got water?
I am ready.
All right.
I brought my water.
All right,
She's
so
been practicing.
this is the third and final reading. So this means that these become policy.
Mhm.
And so if something needs to be changed, then the whole process begins again, and policies are constantly being updated. I would like to say once again that the North Brookfield School Committee Policy Manual was very outdated when I started in 2017. So I'd like to thank your predecessor, Dr. Tenza, who started the update, and Megan Cloutier and Michelle Thayer, I believe, were the school committee members on the policy committee at that point. Mr. Lind has done a great deal of work since he's been here, as has Kristen. And, yeah, me too, I showed up.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
So
And
it
last year.
is really, it's something that's really, it's really, really important. It's not really interesting, I think, to most people, but having policies dated 1995 is very disturbing. So it's really good to have these things all freshly done. We are up to date. It's a good thing we joined MASC, so all the people who were on the committee, when we voted to do that, that was a really good decision. And we will continually update them, as we should be.
So if I have questions on them before she goes, should I ask, or do we
Oh.
read and then have questions?
Nope, if you have questions, ask them.
Yes, go ahead.
So I had a question on the domestic violence policy. Do we need to further define family member? I know a lot of bereavement policies have a circle, immediate family. I just didn't know if family member was too loose.
That's actually a good point. I know the bereavement policy at my work, it does include extended family, like aunts and uncles, mother-in-laws, father-in-laws, so.
So contractually, we have to define it for pay. This is your policy, so you would be able to decide. It's not part of the contract, so you would be able to decide. I think often these policies are worded at the discretion of the employer. So if someone came and said, my 15th cousin removed, did something as a district, we could say, well, that person doesn't live with you, but someone who lives with you, a grandparent or a niece or a nephew perhaps, might apply. So I think we have discretion the way the policy's written. But certainly if you wanted to define it further, you could.
I just was throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Well, so it's at the discretion of the employer, so it would be something that we would have to trust the employer to make the best judgment for the situation. If we feel like, we would rather have a defined, we could set that one aside for now and not vote on that one, and then look maybe at some other schools and see if they define it or not.
I like the discretion piece, personally.
It's fine, discretion is a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
in that,
yeah, it absolutely
If I
is.
did it for your
Yep.
second cousin and
Yep.
somebody else has a second cousin,
Right.
are you as close as they were? It's
No,
fine.
I agree, discretion, it also is, some people are going to have a broader view, some people are gonna have a narrower view, so it doesn't even have necessarily anything to do with, favoritism or whatever like that, but on the other hand, how, you know, then, you know, it's also something, it's just you, defining it is also, then that leaves you with that definition and you have no discretion, so.
Yeah, I mean, we can, maybe it'll never even come up. I just had, that was my thought.
Yep.
So we can leave it and revise it, I guess, if we need to, if it becomes crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if this becomes sort of something that,
Hopefully it never comes up.
Well, I mean,
if it does happen to some
if it is
degree, we
something-
could talk about, you know,
I mean,
what
it's
does it
a-
look like?
Is it something that, like, that has happened in the past, we've had executive sessions where we've discussed things. I mean, that is something that the superintendent could come to us and say, can I use my discretion to?
And at the bottom of that policy, there was a note about some wording to look at. If we adopt the policies tonight, does that go into the policy, or? is
No,
there-
the notes come out,
All those notes?
yeah.
Lots of notes?
Those are
Okay.
just, those bold things are from, these are from MASC. And so, note, the school committee should seek the advice of council, deliberate and determine whether or not to change any of the following language in the first paragraph. Make this type of leave paid or unpaid. Make the employee exhaust other leave options or not. And I think we had talked about in policy subcommittee that, that, you know, that it would be at our discretion and that people should, you know, use other means first, and if they're out of time and they need access to this, then certainly they could apply for it, and we could make a decision based on that.
Okay, and I have one more question. Sorry, I hate
That's
to
all
make
right.
You don't have to be
meetings
sorry.
longer, but
Nope.
I do want proof that I read all of these, so I have questions. The concussion policy, athletic trainers are the people that we're placing in charge of a lot of the responsibility. I didn't know if we needed to further define who our,
So that was the Franklin Public Schools policy. I need to rewrite it because we don't have an athletic trainer on staff.
I didn't know if we were going
Yeah.
to call our coaches, I just.
Yeah,
was-
I mean, I'm gonna rewrite it. I have the athletic director and coaches would be responsible along with the school nurse. I just have to take athletic trainer out because we don't have, Franklin is such a large
No,
district.
it's totally different,
Yeah.
along with the impact training. If we
Right.
vote that that's our policy, does that mean that we're going toward having impact training?
So
or-
the policy itself, I'm not sure what I'm doing here.
Do you want
There we go.
I don't know what it was, JJHO-2. Really long.
Okay.
I was trying to find it. Oh, concussion, JJIF. And then JJIF-R are the two ones on concussion. That helps you narrow it down.
I'm just not sure how solid, like, if we vote on a policy, does that mean that that is what we're going toward, or does that mean that we have it? I don't know how finite our
Well, so he's gonna,
adherence is.
so this is the policy, and then he's gonna write the procedure? That's what he,
Right.
so his procedure, then he'll take, what he said, he'd take the Franklin one and adapt it. So it'll be similar, but because we're much smaller, it's gonna be, so, but I guess your second question was, will there be impact training?
So part of the law and the regulations is that we do certain things. And so the policy outlines what the law says we have to do. And so, you know, part of what we want to do is do sort of baseline testing for kids, because that's the only way you can determine whether a student is ready for return to play, is to compare sort of what is normal to after an injury, have they returned to the normal. So we'll be implementing anything that we need to implement, including impact testing. Yeah. So yes, there will be some new things that we have to do. And the MIAA and MDPA, I mean, these organizations have a lot of resources that are very helpful, that we'll take advantage of, and there may be some additional costs, but I think it's just really important that one, we make sure our kids are, particularly student athletes who, you know, tend to, when they get, often the word dinged is used, it's not a ding.
Right.
It's an injury, it's a brain injury, that they need time, but kids will often say, I'm fine. You know, and we just, by going through that kind of baseline testing and then follow-up testing, are they really fine?
Yeah, some of the local schools have it. I don't know if we can look into co-oping that or establishing.
Yeah, we'll
baseline.
definitely follow up with, and I'll have our athletic director, Mr. Sloan, connect with them and see, you know, what they're doing and how they're doing it, and is there cost savings by
Maybe we can just use their
double it up.
payment, yeah.
So,
Send them cookies.
but yes, there's a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of pieces to
Not
put
my
into
cookies.
place.
You
That
can
would
buy
work.
cookies.
All right,
So
those
are
are my
we-
questions. Sorry.
I was gonna say about that then, are we gonna vote on that one or hold off on the concussion? When we get to it,
Well, the manual.
I just wanna
he's-
make sure.
Right, so the policy
Mhm.
is the policy
Okay,
that
I
outlines
just wanna
what we
make
are
sure
required to
that-
do.
Yep,
The thing Mr. Lynn mentioned was gonna be the procedure, and
Right.
that, so that,
okay.
That's gonna take a little while.
right, so
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna
just wanna
rewrite
make sure
that.
so I don't accidentally
Right,
do something
and so
I wasn't
actually,
supposed to.
before we read all this stuff, we're gonna be, we have to read the ones that we're removing too, right?
I think so, I can just say remove.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so are we splitting this, or do you wanna read them all?
I don't care, I can do it. if
You read them all,
It's
Kristen,
fine.
keep
I
go
can
for
do
it.
this. Alright, I was gonna say, do you wanna do it in sections, like do all of G first and then all of I, or do you wanna just do the whole
Yeah,
shebang?
well, yeah, why don't we do that? So, before we do this though, so we do it right.
Yeah,
So she's gonna read them all out as the first motion, correct?
Mhm.
And then someone can just second it without reading them all.
That's true.
Okay, all right, so do you wanna do it all?
sure,
Just read
let's
them
just do it all.
as the first motion,
Okay.
okay?
I make a motion to approve the following policies as our third and final reading. GA, Personnel Policy Goals. GBA, Equal Employment Opportunity. Remove GBD, School Community / Staff Communications. GBEA, Staff Ethics / Conflict of Interest. GBEB, Staff Conduct. GBEBC, Gifts to and Solicitations by Staff. GBEBD, Online Fundraising and Solicitations, Crowdfunding. GBEC, Drug-Free Workplace. GBED, Tobacco Use on School Property by Staff Members Prohibited. GBGB, Staff Personal Security and Safety. GBGE, Domestic Violence Leave Policy. GBGF, Family Medical Leave. GBI, Staff Participation in Political Activities. GBJ, Personnel Records. GBK, Staff Complaints and Grievances. GCA, Professional Staff Positions. GCBA, Professional Staff Salary Schedules. GCBB, Employment of Principals. GCBC, Professional Staff Supplementary Pay Plans. Remove GCBD, Professional Staff Fringe Benefits. Remove GCC, Professional Staff Leaves of Absences. Remove GCCC, Professional Staff Family and Medical Leave. Remove GCCC-E, Family Medical Leave. Remove GCD, Professional Staff Vacations and Holidays. GCE, Professional Staff Recruiting / Posting for Vacancies. GCF, Professional Staff Hiring. GCG, Part-Time and Substitute Professional Staff Employment. GCIA, Philosophy of Staff Development. GCJ, Professional Teacher Status. GCK, Professional Staff Assignments and Transfers. Remove GCL, Professional Staff Time Schedules. GCO, Evaluation of Professional Staff. Remove GCO-R, Evaluation of Professional Staff. Remove GCO-1-R, Evaluation of Professional Staff Teachers. Remove GCO-2-R, Evaluation of Teachers and Administrators. Remove GCQA, Reduction of Professional Staff Workplace. GCQE, Retirement of Professional Staff Members. GCQF, Suspension and Dismissal of Professional Staff Members. GCRD, Tutoring for Pay. GDA, Support Staff Positions. GDB, Support Staff Contracts and Compensation Plans. Remove GDBC, Support Staff Leaves of Absence. Remove GDCC, Support Staff Family Medical Leave. GDD, Support Staff Vacations and Holidays. Remove GDE, Support Staff Recruiting / Posting of Vacancies. Remove GDI, Support Staff Probation. Remove GDJ, Support Staff Assignments and Transfers. remove GDK, support staff time schedules. GDO, evaluation of support staff, remove GDP, support staff promotions. GDQC, retirement of support staff members. GDQD, suspension and dismissal of support staff members. Thank you. Remove IA, instructional goals. IB, academic freedom. IC/ICA, school year/school calendar. ID, school day. IE, organization of instruction. IGA, curriculum development. IGB, student support services programs. Remove IGBE, remedial instruction. Remove IGBG, home instruction. IGD, curriculum adoption. Remove IGHB, alternative programs. Remove IHA, basic instructional programs. Remove IHAE, physical education. IHAI, occupational education. Remove IHAL, virtual education. IHAM, health education. IHAM-R, health education. IHAMA, parental notification relative to sex education. IHAMB, teaching about alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. Remove IHAM-1-E, notice to parent/guardian. IHAM-2, sorry, this is removal, human growth and development. IHB, special instructional programs and accommodations. IHBA, programs for students with disabilities. IHBAA, observations of special education programs. Remove IHBB, gifted and talented education. IHBD, compensatory education. Remove IHBE, bilingual education. IHBEA, English learner education. IHBF, homebound instruction. IHBG, homeschooling. IHBG-R, homeschooling. IHBH, alternative school programs. Remove IHBHB, magnet schools. IHCA, summer schools. Remove IIAE, reconsideration of instructional resources. IJ, instructional materials. IJ-R, reconsideration of instructional resources. IJJ, removal of IJJ, textbook selection and adoption. Remove IJK, supplementary material selection and adoption. IJL, library materials selection and adoption. IJLA, library resources. Remove IJM, special interest material selection and adoption. IJND, access to digital resources. IJNDB, empowered digital use. IJNDC, internet publication. IJNDD, policy on social media. IJOA, field trips. IJOB, community resources persons/speakers. IJOC, school volunteers. IK, academic achievement. Remove IKAB, student progress reports to parents. Remove IKB, homework. IKE, promotion and retention of students. IKF, graduation requirements. IL, evaluation of instructional programs. Remove ILBA, district program assessments. Remove ILBA-E, district program assessments. ILD, student submission to educational surveys and research. IMA, teaching activities/presentations. IMB, teaching about controversial issues/speakers. IMD, school ceremonies and observances. IMG, animals in school. Remove JA, student policy goals. JB, equal educational opportunities. JC, attendance areas. Remove, I think, right? Yeah. JCA, assignment of students to schools. JEB, entrance age. JF, school admissions. JFABC, admission of transfer students. JFABD, homeless students, enrollment rights and services. JFABE, educational opportunities for military children. JFABF, educational opportunities for children in foster care. JFBB, school choice. JFBB-1, school choice. JH, student absences and excuses. JHD, exclusions and exemptions from school attendance. JI, student rights and responsibilities. JIB, student involved in decision making. JIC, student discipline, JICA, student dress code, JICC, student conduct on buses, JICE, student publications, JICF, gang activities / secret societies, JICFA, prohibition of hazing, JICFA-E, hazing, JICFB, bullying prevention, JICH, alcohol, tobacco, and drug use by students prohibited, remove JICI, dangerous weapons in school, JIE, pregnant students, JIH, interrogations and searches, JII, student complaints and grievances, JJ, co-curricular and extracurricular activities, JJA, student organizations, JJE, student fundraising activities, JJF, student activity accounts, remove JJFG, disposition of student activity accounts. Almost there. Remove JJG, contests for students, JJH, student late night or overnight travel, JJH-R, student travel regulations, JJIB, interscholastic athletics, JJIF, athletic concussion policy, JJIF-R, athletic concussion regulations, JK, student conduct, JKA, corporal punishment, JKAA, physical restraint of students, JL, student welfare, remove JLA, student insurance program, and remove JLB, student allergy policy, JLC, student health services and requirements, JLCA, physical examinations of students, JLCB, immunizations of students, JLCC, communicable diseases, JLCD, administering medicines to students, JLCE, life-threatening allergy policy, remove JLD, guidance program, remove JP, student gifts and solicitation, JQ, student fees, fines, and charges, JRA, student records, remove JRA-A, student records,
No.
and
Read that one again.
remove JRA-R, remove student records, and JRD, student photographs.
Well done.
Woohoo! I need my water.
Good morning, everybody.
I know, right?
All right, we need a second.
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. I just want to point out, we did have a lot of removals. A lot of those are because they are now contractual. And then also a lot of the removals are either because they're no longer relevant or they're folded in with more updated policies.
Thanks, guys, for doing that work.
You're welcome.
Is it done down
I
there?
think,
think
well, we're all
we're
updated, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
it's a
all updated
constant
now,
thing,
yeah.
Right,
but it's
okay.
not the entire manual. And I'm
Maybe
sure
it'll be 1
our
hour.
Yeah.
legal counsel is happy.
I would think so.
Superintendent's.
I would hope so.
Well, there you go, that's the most important
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
All right, so we have a couple of new businesses and then we'll be done.
So first, we have the Q1 Southern Worcester County Education Collaborative Report. I just put the front cover. I don't want to
Yeah.
kill trees. The electronic version is in the Google Drive, but on a quarterly basis, collaboratives need to report out to school committees.
Mhm.
So I do need a motion.
Yeah, motion to approve the Q1 Southern Worcester County Education Collaborative Report.
I suppose I should second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Get my name in there.
Next, they also have to put out an annual report at the end of the year, so this is the end of last school year's report that was just completed. It needs to be submitted by December 31st. And again, they need your approval. They need school committees.
Sure. Motion to approve the FY19 Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative Annual Report.
I second.
All in favor?
And then in your packet is the Student Council e-board retreat to Springfield College. So this trip was held November 9th, leaving a Saturday and coming back Sunday. So there was a paperwork snafu with this. This should have been submitted for the previous school committee. but it got to my office after the meeting. And in collaboration with Mrs. Tucker, we felt like the student shouldn't be punished because paperwork was in transit. I did speak to, Ms. Malone and asked her to make sure she sent these things well in advance so that we didn't run into this again. So I would ask you to approve it, even though the trip has already happened, just as a matter of policy.
Someone other than Kristen want to do the motion?
I move that we approve the field trip request for the e-board retreat.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I hope they had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We have one donation.
Take note, this month it's only one. Usually we
Yeah.
have multiple.
So Mrs. Rogers, she's a special education teacher here. She has some students that would benefit from a giant floor piano. And I don't know if you ever saw the movie Big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think of as
Yeah,
a floor
right. Yeah, me
piano.
too. Are they gonna play Heart and Soul?
And apparently that got put out onto Facebook somewhere, and it traveled around, and a gentleman walked into our main office and handed a brand-new unwrapped, in the wrapper,
box.
floor piano, and when Mrs. Renaud said, can I get your name, because she knows we need to do this for school committee, he refused. He wanted a name, remain anonymous. She saw the name on his shirt was Joe, but that's all he would give her. He said, that's all you get, and he walked out. So it was a very, very sweet and wonderful gesture on his part, and Mrs. Rogers danced down the hallway because she knew she was going to have
After we
students.
all cried.
I know.
It's really sweet.
So,
Well,
I know, that
thank you
was
very
really
much,
sweet.
Joe. We appreciate very, very much your
Need more
donation.
Joes.
You know, thank you. We
We
do.
need lots
We need
of
more
Joes.
Joes in
Yes,
the world.
this is true.
Joe's to raise a
it
Yep,
was wonderful.
Yep.
So we need a motion for that as well.
yep. So we have a motion.
I make a motion to accept the very generous gift of the floor piano from Joe.
I second.
All in favor? Thanks, Joe.
I do have one more
There's a
thing that
star and heaven with your name on it.
Yeah, so we got the Q2 bill for the new student that we received that is at Southern Worcester County Education Collaborative, and the transportation bill. In the last month, we got the Q1 bill. This is the Q2 bill. We would like to, again, approach the selectmen about this unanticipated expense being part of our, from the special education stabilization account, in the amount of $14,845.55, with $10,293.75 being tuition, and $4,551.80 being in transportation.
So the first quarter has been dealt with, it has?
Selectmen
Okay.
did approve
All right.
that, and,
That's good.
it's in process, so,
Okay,
being
yep, well, they
processed.
approved it, so
but
that's
they
fine.
did approve it.
Okay. So we need a motion then for the second quarter tuition.
Sure. Motion to approve the second quarter tuition payment in the amount of $14,845.55.
I second.
All in favor? So just a note, the education funding bill that has yet to come out of conference and be signed by the governor. Actually, no, there's actually a commission, they're looking at transportation. So there's another and it will, not only regional transportation, but issues of these kind of transportations that schools are dealing with, so. All right, and I think, is that it?
Yeah, it's a live one, so.
Yep.
I appreciate you taking that one late. She'll get the bill today, and by the time we meet the next time, it'll be past their dates.
Do you need
Anyone
another?
will
Oh, one more.
have to do. So I appreciate you adding that to the agenda.
Okay,
That'll do it.
all right. Debbie?
My turn?
Yes, it is.
We adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? All right.
Thank you,
Till
everyone.
next month.
Appreciate it.
Does anyone need to sign those, or